In the top stories, St. Kitts and Nevis to receive an additional 41,600 doses of COVID-19 vaccines. Vaccination program begins in Barbuda, and Facebook agrees to restore Australian news pages. Hello and welcome to the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Today's Wednesday, the 24th of February 2021. I'm Jason Davis. Nationally, the government's COVID-19 vaccination program will be ramped up over the next several weeks as more doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine are expected to arrive in the Federation this month and in March. Prime Minister Dr. The Honourable Timothy Harris, who was the second person in St. Kitts and Nevis to be administered the vaccine, said the Federation will receive more than 41,000 doses of the vaccine shortly. The Prime Minister was speaking on the Tuesday night edition of Leadership Matters.
In anticipation of the highest voluntary acceptance of the COVID-19 vaccine in modern times, my government has over 41,600 doses of Oxford AstraZeneca vaccines on order, with delivery expected over the coming weeks. We are bringing them in and making them available free of cost to every persons eligible to receive them. We thank the COVAX facility and all benefactors like the governments of Dominica, India, Taiwan, etc., who have been helping us.
Dr. Harris further explained that the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States Commission has made charter flight arrangements to bring 125,000 doses of vaccine by the most direct route from India to St. Lucia, where individual distribution will be made via the Regional Security System, or RSS. Religious denominations and constituents of the St. Anne's community have been invited to a parish meeting set for Thursday, February 25 at 5 p.m. at the Sandy Point Community Center in an effort to sensitize them on the official utilization of the public cemetery at Farms Estate. St. Christopher and Nevis Chapter 9.07 of the Cemeteries Act declared in 2014 a certain portion of lands located at Farms Estate in the parish of St. Anne's to be a public cemetery. The Honourable Sean Richards, parliamentary representative of Sandy Point, has sought the assistance of the Ministry of Ecclesiastical Affairs to have the land allocated for burial be effectively and officially utilized. In other news, officials from the Department of Agriculture will be featured on the government radio and TV program Working for You later today. The special guests will be Melvin James, Director in the Department of Agriculture, and Ian Chapman, Crops Program Leader. The discussion will focus on the recently held Annual Review and Planning Meeting 2021 with a focus on the Director's Report for 2020, the International Year of Fruits and Vegetables 2021, new initiatives for this year, and the way forward for the Department of Agriculture, among other pertinent issues. Working for You is carried live every Wednesday on ZIZ Radio and other participating radio stations, and the program is also streamed live on the SKNIS Facebook and YouTube pages. We now move to news on the regional scene. The first COVID-19 Oxford AstraZeneca vaccines were administered in Barbuda on Tuesday. Healthcare workers who are leading the response to the viral infection and the Member of Parliament for Barbuda, Trevor Walker, were among the first to receive their jabs. Kim Emmanuel Baird of ABS News has that story.
Fill out this and put your telephone number and email address on the back here.
The first to receive their Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine on the Sister Isle was head nurse Janita Coffey. Nurse Coffey says she feels obligated to set an example for others in Barbuda to follow.
It's a good opportunity for us here in Barbuda in the fight against COVID-19, so I feel obligated to be the first to show an example of persons here in our community that this is safe and it's an effort in fighting COVID.
Deputy Superintendent Public Health Nurse Wanda Samuel administered the vaccines. Dozens of people in Barbuda are to receive the first dose of their vaccine in the initial stage, including frontline healthcare workers and the elderly.
Okay, so she'll get 2 doses, one now. In 12 weeks, she'll get the second dose.
Member of Parliament for Barbuda, Honorable Trevor Walker, was among those to receive the first dose on Tuesday.
I had my skepticism. I was not very comfortable at first, and then I did my own research, and having heard my own doctor in Antigua spoke about it on ABS, and also having seen him taking it gave me a bit more confidence.
The initial stages of the vaccination process will continue in coming days. This is Kim Emmanuel Baird, ABS News.
Leading by example, Prime Minister of Dominica, Roosevelt Skerrit, received the first dose of the Oxford AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine and urged nationals to get vaccinated against the novel coronavirus. More in this report.
Dominica's Prime Minister Dr. Roosevelt Skerrit got his first dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine on Tuesday.
I feel good so far, and as the nurse has said to me, I may feel a little chill later on today. If I do take 2 paracetamol, I'll be fine. It's not going to kill me, it's not going to kill anybody.
Soon afterwards, the Dominican leader urged his nationals to follow suit.
So we have to get vaccinated, and that's my wish and hope and prayer that we in Dominica, because 25%, 25,000 of us can get vaccinated in the country in this first phase. This would be amazing. And then we get additional doses, and we can continue eventually. We can have the whole population vaccinated.
He said getting most of the population vaccinated is key to completely opening up the Dominican economy.
And if we are reliant in large measure on tourism in Dominica and of course the Caribbean, that's one of the ways we're going to be able to reopen, to get people to travel again and people to feel comfortable in their minds and the way they feel, that they can board a plane and come to Dominica, come to Barbados, come to Antigua, come to St. Lucia, come to St. Vincent, so that we can see our economy is going back to the point of tax revenues to continue our economic development in the region and Dominica.
He said Dominica is in a good position with the recent rollout.
With what we have from India now, we can vaccinate 25,000 Dominicans. 25,000 Dominicans can be vaccinated, and Dominicans and residents of Dominica can be vaccinated. And I've been receiving quite a few messages of people who tell me that they've been vaccinated.
But the Dominican leader said his country is getting more doses.
Very soon we will have another 20,000 doses from China coming in here. And in the month of March, thereabout, we should expect to get some from the COVAX facility through PAHO.
Internationally, Facebook has announced that it will restore news content to its users in Australia. The decision comes after the government agreed to amend legislation that would make tech giants pay for Australian news content. Al Jazeera's Victoria Gattenby has more.
The compromise agreed between the Australian government and Facebook has been welcomed by users and is a victory in the short term at least for Australia's news outlets who will have their Facebook pages restored.
Well, Facebook has refriended Australia, and Australian news will be restored to the Facebook platform. And Facebook has committed to entering into good faith negotiations with Australian news media businesses in seeking to reach agreements to pay for content.
Facebook has agreed to invest tens of millions of dollars into Australia's struggling news sector. In return, it'll avoid mandatory payments that could have cost it vastly more and created what it sees as an alarming global precedent.
At the end of the day, Facebook's accepted the premise that there needs to be an accommodation between their market dominance in advertising and the public interest of having journalism and news content in Australia.
The social media giant sparked outrage last week by blocking news content for its Australian users in protest against legislation that would have forced it to pay media companies when it republished their content. Google faced the same threat but took the opposite approach, striking a deal with Rupert Murdoch's News Corp.
I think Facebook, well, in my view, might have misjudged this one, and I think the market's going to respond pretty strongly with competing places to get news. But if you're an active Facebook user, you just have to get into the habit of collecting your news from alternative platforms.
There's been years of escalating tension between governments and big tech. Many saw Facebook's blocking of Australian media as an attack on free speech and even a threat to democracy. And that could alter the road to regulation, putting companies like Facebook under more pressure than ever before. Similar laws are already being discussed in the EU and Canada.
The news ecology has been radically disrupted in the last little while, and I think there is a global appetite for regulation and a global appetite for Facebook and Google and others to pay something for the news that is linked to from their platforms, and I think this is just one step in that process.
Google and Facebook have 2 months to reach further deals with Australian news outlets and avoid being forced to pay. Victoria Gatenby, Al Jazeera.
American golfer Tiger Woods has been admitted to hospital with serious leg injuries after a car crash near Los Angeles. The car the 15-time PGA champion was driving went off the road and rolled over several times on Tuesday morning. The cause of the crash is under investigation and Woods underwent surgery. Al Jazeera's Rob Reynolds reports.
Tiger Woods suffered serious but non-life-threatening injuries after a violent car crash near Los Angeles.
It was my understanding that he had serious injuries to both legs.
The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department said it was a single-car rollover collision. Woods was the sole occupant of the SUV.
No skid marks, no braking. So apparently the first contact was with the center median, and from there then crossed into the opposing lane of traffic, hit the curb, hit a tree, and there was several rollovers during that process.
The vehicle wound up lying on its side at the bottom of the shallow ravine. One look at the severe damage to the front of the SUV shows how violent the accident was. The outcome could certainly have been worse.
The front end was totally destroyed, the bumpers, everything was destroyed, airbags deployed, all of that. And however, thankfully, the interior was more or less intact, which kind of gave him the cushion to survive what's otherwise would have been a fatal crash.
Sheriff's deputies who pried Woods loose from the wreck say he was wearing seatbelts and that he was conscious, lucid, and able to speak with his rescuers. Authorities say there was no evidence Woods was impaired by alcohol or drugs. The 45-year-old golf legend was transported to a nearby hospital and underwent surgery. Tiger Woods is unquestionably one of the greatest golfers of all time. He won 15 major championships, including 5 Masters tournaments, 3 British Opens, 4 PGA championships, and more. As a person of color who dominated what had been an overwhelmingly white sport, he shattered barriers and expanded horizons for other athletes, inspiring many fans, young and old. Tiger, it was said, made golf cool. Woods has had his share of difficulties and embarrassments, including a messy divorce and the disclosure of multiple marital infidelities. It's still not known whether Woods will play golf professionally again after Tuesday's crash. Police say it may take days or weeks before they determine the cause of the accident. Rob Reynolds, Al Jazeera, Los Angeles.
And now for the weather. Present weather shows partly cloudy skies with showers in the vicinity. Winds are a moderate breeze of 17 miles per hour from an easterly direction. The temperature for today is 28 degrees Celsius or 82 degrees Fahrenheit. Seas are moderate with waves of 5 to 7 feet with northeast swells of 5 feet, and a high surf advisory is in effect. The weather today will be partly cloudy with a 40% or moderate chance of showers, and tonight partly cloudy with a 30% or low chance of showers. Sunset today will be at 6:16 p.m., sunrise tomorrow at 6:31 a.m. And that brings us to the end of the ZIZ Midday Major Newscast. Join us this evening for these stories and more in detail. I'm Jason Davis. Have a good day.